Welcome to Gut Punch, the podcast that explores life-changing moments. Hosted by Kathryn Lancioni, a seasoned educator with personal insights into resilience. Kathryn shares how life can change in an instant, shaping our path forward. Each episode features inspiring guests who face their own gut punch moments. Guests share their journeys through loss, upheaval, and triumph. What to expect: honest conversations, lessons in resilience, inspiration for growth. Join Kathryn as she highlights courage and perseverance in every story. Gut Punch is a reminder that there is always a path forward. Be part of the conversation. Register now to join Kathryn for today's journey.
Welcome back to Gut Punch. This is our third episode in the series of what happened to our host, Kathryn Lancioni, when she was on vacation and got sick. We've talked through the illness and we've talked through a little bit of her recovery. Today, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what happened when she got home. But for our listeners, if you haven't watched episode 1 and 2, you should go do so. It's a compelling story. It's a story that a lot of people can relate to, whether you've had the exact issue, the exact gut punch that Kathryn has had, or something similar. You know what she's feeling. You know what it feels like. Kathryn was a vivacious, athletic person that went out and did things, traveled the world. She and her daughter were on vacation and she got exposed to a disease. And when she comes home, she has to go to the hospital. They put her in a medically induced coma, and she's in that coma for 2 weeks. It's going to be several weeks after that before she can move to rehab, and then finally move to rehab and finally home. So with that bit of a recap, Kathryn, welcome to your show.
Thank you.
Say hello to your viewers, your audience, and a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into the rest of the story.
Yeah. So thanks, John, John and Jeff for putting the show together in this whole series. I should say Jeff has been a wonderful person to work with on it so far. So if you haven't listened to the first 2 episodes, please do. There's some fun little nuggets in them. But as Jeff said, Kathryn Lancioni, I'm a college professor, a communications coach, and a PR guru. And when I was on this dream trip with my daughter, I had my world turned topsy-turvy when I got home. But what seemed to be a cough and bronchitis turned into sepsis in a matter of 24 hours. And had I not gone to the hospital, I would have died. So that is what happened. And I'm delighted to say that I'm here and I'm fully able and functioning and, been really trying to use my story as one to inspire others. One of the things that we haven't talked about yet was kind of people I encountered along the way and experiences I had along the way. And I would be incredibly remiss if I didn't talk about what happened when I was in the hospital. So once I woke up from the coma that we talked about in episode 2, I was, in the hospital. I'm seeing doctors every day. And one day the doctor comes into my room and says, there's someone else who died of what you had last night. And I said, was that shrill, large, loud scream that I heard in the middle of the night? He said, yes. He said it was a woman who was your age, who has children your same age, and she died 36 hours after developing the symptoms. And so she was someone from a community that I used to live in, and we actually have common acquaintances. So people asked me if I knew her, and I didn't know her, but I knew of her. And again, we have lots of mutual friends. And, as I said, that we were the same age, kids the same age, both married. And the only difference between the two of us was that I was a runner and she was not. And, the doctors have said many, many times, the only reason I lived was because of the physical condition that I was in. When you're a runner, your heart is used to going up and down, going up hills and into valleys and going like that. And so I ran 5 miles a day for, decades. And so my heart was used to stress. And even when I got to the hospital and it was operating at 10%, it was still able to somewhat pump blood and work because it had been in stressful experiences, moments over the years with my running. And so for all of you that are thinking about, the merits of exercise, I can literally tell you that running saved my life.
Living proof.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Well, talk to us about when you come home. You mentioned in the last conversation that you were one of the people that got out of PT early. You graduated early, which is commendable.
Thank you.
And now you're coming home. What's happening? What's going on? What are you thinking and feeling?
So we didn't, like much of this. We planned for what we could plan for, but didn't know what we were going to encounter. So what happened was, I was laying in the hospital, or I was in the rehab center, and talking to the doctors, and they wanted to discharge me early, and I was not ready to be discharged that early. So we negotiated a couple of extra days to get the house in order. And part of that was because I wanted to have a nurse at home with me to just help, because I didn't know kind of how I was going to be when I came home. So we arranged for all of that. And I got home and I realized very quickly I did not need the nurse. She was lovely, but I was much more able to get around and function than I thought. Didn't know if I'd be able to climb the stairs. I was able to do it. We didn't know if I'd be able to make myself meals. I was able to do it. We didn't know whether or not I'd be able to shower by myself. I was able to do it. So
Yeah.
all of the things that we thought I might need help with, it was over planning. So it was weird because for my family, I have a husband, a daughter, a son. My son was at school, college, but my daughter was home. So, they had been alone in the house for, almost 2 months. And my daughter had settled into the role of kind of being the mother, and my husband, played the role of
Yeah.
father, like he always does.
Yeah.
And so, he would go to the market and get food, and she would, cook dinner and help with the housework, gender roles be what they are. But that's kind of what happened. So when I got home, their routine was completely disrupted.
Yes.
And, we were having dinner one night, and my daughter said to me, "It's really weird that you're here." And I was like, "What do you mean? Like, this is like my house. Why is it weird that I'm here?" So, it's just really weird that you're here, Mom. She's like, "I really got used to you not being here." And I was like, "Well, do you want me you want me to
Do you
leave?"
want me to leave?
She's like, no. It's like, "It's good." But I just, so I think it was weird for them. And it was weird for me because I had gone from being by myself in a hospital bed for over 2 months to being home. Missed my house. I missed my routine. But what was so frustrating for me was I was home, but I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. I wasn't able to go for a run. I wasn't able to go to bar class. I wasn't able to take the dog for a walk because I was still recovering. And part
Life's
of
not
that,
normal. Yeah.
wanting to get back into the classroom, was listening to my doctors. And then the one frustration and challenge for all of us was I had to have a surgery. So when they put me on those blood pressure medications to keep me alive, it draws blood away from the doctors call it digits, your hands and feet. So I, unfortunately, because of it all, developed some gangrene on my feet and some gangrene on my hands. And I did lose the top of my right thumb because of all this, because that was very infected. And then there were a few patches on my feet that developed gangrene that they had to clean up. So I came home from rehab on May 17th, was able to go to my daughter's graduation, was able to have a graduation party. And I was, everyone knew what had happened. So everybody was super supportive. And I had people coming and lunching with me and taking me out because I wasn't able to drive at this point. So July 2nd, I went for the surgery and spent the rest of the summer recovering. And then the other blip, gut punch, there have been many, was in early October, was with the surgeon, and he figured out there was a part of my one foot that wasn't healing, and they realized there was an infection. So I had to go for another surgery. So my healing process started pretty much all over again. On my feet. And so what's been hard is, just as I feel like I'm getting better, then something else happens. And that, to be honest, like, it really wasn't until mid-January of this year, of 2025, that the doctors, everything, I got the medical clearance. And so I had been on a variety of medications. I had been on blood thinner because I had developed blood clots when I was in the hospital. I'd been on a heart medication because of the inefficiency of my heart to stabilize, honestly. They ruled out the dialysis, which was good, but I was on a whole host of medications. And so the last remaining medicine was the heart medication, Entresto. And at the end of January, I went to the cardiologist and he's like, "You're good." "What do you mean I'm good?" He's like, "You're good. And so you can go off the meds." And it's hard and this sounds so crazy, but you've been on medication since March.
Yeah.
And it's January. And then one day, the doctor snapped his fingers and you're good and you're healed and you're not on the medication anymore. And I said, "How do you know that I'm going to be okay?" And he said to me, looked at me in the eye. He goes, "Were you healthy before this happens?" And I said, "Yeah, I was the healthiest person anyone knew." He goes, "Well, that's who you are now." He goes, "What you had was an infection. It took over your body. It did its damage and it left. And I was like, so sort of like an alien invasion. He goes, yes, if you want to put it in those terms. And he's like, so you're good. And then I said in my snarky voice, I was like, well, I guess we'll find out if I'm not good if I wind up in the ER and you see me. And he's like, please. And I started to laugh. And yeah. So coming home was weird for everybody, but we all adjusted. But it was not without change. I mean, I think even the dog had adjusted to me not being home and kind of what's you doing here? Yeah, exactly. But no, and I think we all, as a family, we all healed together. I at one point said to my kids, do you want to talk about what happened to me? And they said no. We've probably been through it. We've processed it. They process it differently because my kids are very different from each other. And no one needs to go back there. And I'll be honest, it took me probably about 6 months to get the courage to read the discharge papers that I had from hospital because it summarizes what had happened to me.
Right.
And my sister had actually journaled my first 2 weeks, and I threw that away. I didn't want to read it. I actually regret doing that now. But for me, there is no point in reliving what has been the darkest moment of my life. The memories of what happened are blurry, and that's okay. For me, the important part of this is what I've gotten out of it, as we were talking about before, and the lesson that I've learned. And I think that, one of my biggest takeaways is that we are our own greatest excuse, right? We're our own greatest critic, and we're also our own greatest excuse. So the only reason that we can't do something is if we don't let ourselves. And so, as I was saying, what I did in the hospital was every day I set a little goal, a little milestone for myself, and I tried to achieve it. And if I didn't, it was okay. It would just slide to the next day. But as wonderful, and I have so many amazing friends and people that prayed for me. I had people praying for me that didn't even know me. I had this one woman, a friend of a friend. She goes, "Oh my God, you're Kathryn." I met her out one day. I said, "Yes." She goes, "I prayed for you. I had friends pray for you. So we didn't know who you were. She's like, we just knew your story, and we just wanted you to be okay."
That's incredible.
Yes. And so
The
I think that
wraparound of a community of people is incredible. Let's talk about the lessons learned. You wrote a wonderful blog post that talks about some of the lessons learned, but I think in that you list 3 primary lessons that come out of. What's the first one?
So the first thing is there are so many. One of the biggest ones, one of the most important ones is that little things matter. Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like we are a society of people that go from one big moment to the next big moment. And what I think is so important is to not go from big thing to big thing, but to go from little thing to little thing. As I said in the hospital, I set my mini milestones for myself. And that's really how I try to live my life, especially now. I was really good at appreciating little things before this happened, but now I'm even more focused on them. And, to quote my mother, nothing is special unless you make it special. So I've learned to try to find any excuse to celebrate, whether it's with a cookie, a bottle of champagne, or sometimes both, because it is those little moments that are so special. Because the big goals that we all set for ourselves are few and far between. Another really important one is to surround yourself with people that love and support you and who are your champions. It's funny when you almost die like I did, you see who your true friends are. You see who your community is. And I was overwhelmed to the number of people that came and visited me, the flowers, the food. I mean, you name it, it was sent. I did not have any visitors besides my family when I was in the hospital, when I was in the acute care facility, because I just didn't want to see anyone.
Yeah.
Right. But once I get to the rehab center and I was feeling better and able to sit up and really talk, the nurses, they were like, we've never seen anybody with so many friends. Like I had a schedule. I had somebody that came at breakfast, somebody that came at lunch, someone that came for the mid-afternoon snack, and somebody that came for dinner. And there were a couple of girlfriends that were like repeat, like they signed up and they had their time. They came every day. And that was wonderful because I just got to sit there and chat about life or their lives or all the crazy stuff that was going on. And it really just helped me take my mind off of what I was going through. And I think that that's really, really an important lesson. And the other thing, as I was saying before, is like at the end of the day, it all comes down to you. Like you have to just put faith in yourself, be patient, and just try to get back to being you. And you may not, but that's okay. You may discover a new version of you through a gut punch. And I know for myself, my vision of who I was professionally and personally was my motivation for getting
Get
better.
back there.
Yeah, I would, I'll be honest, like I would look at my LinkedIn profile. I'm like, okay, I want to get back to being that person.
Yeah.
How do I do that? And I did. And I am back there. But I think more importantly than looking like that person, I've learned so much about myself. And I've learned that I am patient if I let myself be. I've learned that by digging deep, by digging into who you are, you discover things about yourself that you did not know. I always thought I was a strong person, but damn, am I stronger than I actually realized.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to die anymore either. And I think that is something, there were two things I feared in life. One was giving birth, right? Did that, check that box off, got through that. And the other one was dying. I came this close. I never crossed over, but I came this close. And I've realized that it's okay. And I think that, everyone fears it. But, when I was in that coma, it was very peaceful. I had some crazy dreams and overheard some funny conversations, but it was okay. And I think that, don't let that fear control your life. Live your life to the fullest extent. Capitalize on every day. I always say there are 24 hours in a day. I sleep 8 of them because I do. I work out 1 of them because I definitely do that. But that's only 9 hours, right? That gives you 15 more hours to live life to the fullest. And these days, I really, after what I've been through, I try to capitalize on every day.
You treasure them. You treasure those moments.
I do. I treasure, I value, and I appreciate everyone and every moment that I spend.
Kathryn, this is an incredible story, and one that I know is going to resonate with your viewers, with your listeners. I want to talk a little bit about the podcast itself. You've decided to do this podcast, Gut Punch. Talk about why. What are you wanting to do and accomplish with this podcast?
So when I was in the hospital recovering from the surgery, there was this wonderful nurse. She was from Jamaica. Her name was Laverne. And I was telling my story of what had happened. And because she's like, why are you here? Right? She comes in one day. She's like, you're healthy. I'm like, I know. But, and I told her what happened. And I told her about the woman that had passed. And she said, God chose you. And I am a raised Catholic, but not the most overly religious person. But when she said that to me, that really got me. And it made me pause and think. And as much as I just wanted to sweep this experience underneath the rug and pop back to being me and pretend that everything was okay, that's impossible when you've gone through something like I went through, because it changes fundamentally who you are and who you are at your core. And I decided, after thinking a lot, that I wanted to use this experience to empower other people. I don't need a pity party. I don't need to feel anyone to feel sympathetic or empathetic for me, because I'm okay. But what I want to do is help other people get through their gut punches, navigate those things that are unexpected, that just throw you for a loop, that you don't think you can recover from. Because I know you can, because I was at my darkest place and I'm okay. So that's what I'm hoping through the podcast, is that if we share stories of people who have been through the most horrible of experiences, and what's horrible to me may not be horrible to somebody else. So what we're doing is we're chatting with men and women who have been through horrific experiences, and talk about what the experience was, and more importantly, how they got through it. How did they get through that gut punch? How did they conquer those insurmountable hurdles? And what did they learn from those experiences?
I think it's going to be an incredible podcast. And I know our listeners will want to tune in for the next episodes. And as we said at the beginning, if you haven't checked out episode 1 and 2, please go and do that. The next episode will drop next week, and we'll continue on this journey of sharing gut punch stories, sharing the strength that we can get from having those around us in a community, and the resilience from knowing that we can get through it. So for Kathryn Lancioni, this is Jeff Tunn. Thank you very much for tuning into this 3-part series. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
That's it for today's episode of Gut Punch. I hope you found inspiration, because no matter how hard life hits, there's always a way forward. Make sure to follow or subscribe to Gut Punch on your favorite podcast platform. If you know someone who could use a little inspiration, share this episode with them. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay strong. See you in the next episode.